Well, you know, when you're getting ready to buy or sell a piece of property, there's a lot of fine print. And if you don't read it, sometimes you can be in big trouble. So to talk to us about that a little bit today in our Legally Speaking segment, Mark Critelli, how are you?
Fine print drafted by lawyers.
There you go. Oh, I didn't want to get into that, Mark, with you. So, but the fine print, you know, the devil's in the detail, and sometimes the fine print is what it's all about. We want to talk about actually 3 clauses that happen in some mortgage documents, okay? And sometimes people might not know that they're there, might not even be looking for them, but we want to kind of bring them to light today, right?
Well, I think it's important, especially in this economy, climate, what's going on, that hopefully, because obviously people are still going to buy and sell houses,
right.
but some folks probably should have reviewed their documents in more detail. Knew who they were dealing with earlier,
right.
I would think would have made sense too. But you do need to, I think, look at your documents that you're signing
right.
through a transaction.
And know what you're signing before you sign it.
And know what you're signing. You know, nobody has a gun to your head.
That's
so,
right.
So, you know, I think you need to review, you know, your documents.
Exactly. Let's talk about the first one here.
Okay.
Due on sale.
Okay.
What does that mean?
What this says is that virtually all mortgage documents have a clause that says that if you have a mortgage on a piece of real property and you sell the property, most people would say, well, obviously you have to pay your mortgage off. Well, not necessarily, okay? Back in the 70s, many properties were sold on contract,
okay.
even though they had an underlying mortgage, okay? This was because, if people recall their history, back then you had mortgages that were already on the books, 6, 7, 8, 8%,
right.
pretty low mortgages,
right.
okay, historically. But back in the late 70s, mortgage rates went to about 16, 17, 18%. Well, in order to get around a new mortgage, people would sell on contract, try to leave the underlying mortgage in place. Okay,
right.
All right. Well, the due on sales clause basically says, no, that is illegal, by the way.
Okay.
It's in violation of your contract, and if you sell the property, you need to pay the mortgage off in full.
Got
okay?
it.
So it is in there, and I promise you, if your readers and listeners go home and look at their mortgage, they're going to see a clause that says due on sale.
Very good. So they need to be thoughtful of that part
right.
of it. Prepayment penalty.
Okay.
Now this one I think is definitely something that catches people a little off guard.
Right. Now, prepayment penalty basically says that if you pay the mortgage off or the note off before it's due, potentially there could be some type of a penalty clause in your note and or your mortgage using some type of a penalty against you. Okay? Now let's talk about that. Generally, it would be 1 or 2 percentage points of the unpaid balance. Okay? Maybe some kind of 2 or 3% of the interest that you paid the previous year.
Right.
There's always some measure. Okay? It's pretty unusual that it says that you can't pay off.
Okay.
But there could be a penalty clause. Now, where you would see a lot of these, they actually came to surface late 90s, early 2001, 2, 3, kind of when things were really booming in the real estate market. Again, we're back to the subprime. I hate to say, keep going to that, but many times those types of mortgages and notes would have a higher interest rate. Well, you can imagine if a mortgage company is getting a higher interest rate, they're not going to want that paid off real soon.
Exactly.
Because they're actually earning some
interest there.
You're right, exactly.
Yep.
And so that's where they started. You started seeing lots of the prepayment penalties.
Exactly. And I think when you think about how the mortgage companies are structuring this, it's no wonder that they don't want them done that way because they're making money.
Well,
but again, you just need to be cognizant of that, right?
In defense of the mortgage company, I've read some information. I talked with them. They state that they really don't make any money in the first 2 years. And I think that's probably true because they have a lot of upfront costs that most consumers never see. So obviously if you take out a mortgage in year one, pay it off in year two. Probably they haven't made any money.
Right.
Okay, all they've done is recover some costs.
Exactly.
So that's one of the reasons why they have that clause.
Exactly. Third one we want to hit on real quick is adjustable rate mortgages,
Okay.
the ARMs that are out there. And there's been a lot of conversation about that, so I think this one can be probably pretty simple for us.
Okay.
These are the rates where it's adjustable. It starts out maybe kind of low, and by the tail end of it, it's popped up.
Right.
You just need to be aware of what it's going to pop up to.
Right. What I want to talk about on this, and they call these ARM clauses. Many times, again, in the past 4 or 5 years, you would have what they would call a teaser rate. Okay. This is what I think is important here. You'd have an artificially low initial rate for probably a year, 2, maybe 3, but that's pretty much the end of it. It's pretty common for a year or 2. And then it will adjust up. In fact, that's where, again, many of these subprime mortgages really got their start. You'd have an artificially low rate for about 3 years, and then it would adjust after that to any number of indexes. And whereas you could have started at maybe 3 or 4 or 5%, and then you could go as high as maybe like 8%, 10%. 11%,
Which obviously
12%.
is going to change huge on your payment at that point in time.
Exactly. And again, it's with the adjustable rate mortgage that you would have that. Okay. And again, if you see anywhere on your mortgage or your note that says ARM, adjustable rate, and that's not what you bargained for, you need to really kind of stop and go, is this what I'm supposed to be doing here?
Right. And again, that is it's definitely about reviewing it and making sure you know exactly what you're signing, what those numbers are going to reflect before you sign on the dotted line, right? Very good. Well, Mark, again, there's always, as I said, a lot of fine print. That those attorneys do come up with there.
Lawyers.
That's why we have guys like you on the show here with us to talk about that kind of stuff. But again, read that fine print. Make sure you know what you're signing before you actually sign it. Because again, problems could be huge on the backside of that. So, Mark, as always, good to have you here. Thanks.
Good to be here.
All
Thank
right,
you.
very good. We'll be back.